Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's Claudia, the Organized Homemaker. Thank you for joining me. I know it's been a long time since I've been on YouTube, but lots has happened in my life. Um, since I was last here was a year ago. My husband was involved in a single vehicle motor vehicle accident where his pickup truck rolled 4 times and he hit a tree. He was injured, broke his spine in T10, so the thoracic lumbar spine. He broke his 10th vertebrae, and as a result, he was paralyzed from the waist down. He is since been battling his way back, and he can now stand, he can move his legs, but he has no balance. He is fighting his way back from paralysis, and he is learning how to walk again. So it's been a journey. He almost died 4 times during his hospitalization. It's been a lot. And one day I'll do a video with just information about that experience. But I wanted to let you know why I've been absent and why my focus has not been here on YouTube. I will say that I was asked so many questions that I thought it would be good to do a Q&A, and that's what this video is today, is answering some of the questions that I'm often asked. And one of the ones that I'm most often asked is, how am I doing a year out from that situation? How am I doing emotionally? And I will say emotionally, at this point, I'm doing good. If you would ask me that 6 months ago, I would have told you I don't know how I was doing. But every day that he makes progress, and every day that he gets stronger, and every day that we figure out our new normal, our new life, and what life looks like going forward, I am good. I feel like we have developed a system and routines, and our home now functions better for us, that emotionally I feel like I'm doing okay. There are days, don't get me wrong, when I'm sad. There are days when I mourn what we used to have, because my husband has always been my hero. He's always been my strong man, and we have had a very happy marriage. He is the one that, he makes me smile just walking into the room, you know? And he still does that, but it used to be, well, I don't have to lift that because hubby will do it. I don't have to carry that because he will do it for me. He's always spoiled me rotten. I never had to carry groceries, never had to lift anything, and he would have a fit if I did, because he likes to pamper me. And of course I don't mind being pampered. Who does, you know? And so I miss some of that because he's not able to do that. Now I'm doing all of the things he used to do, in addition to what I need to do. And so that's probably been one of the biggest challenge, is the amount of work that is required to live the new life that we're living. But for the most part, you know, we're doing good. Excuse me. I will say that he pushes himself very hard, and the level of progress that he has made, his physicians call it miraculous. And it truly is a miracle, because they did not expect him to walk. They did not expect him to get out of the wheelchair. He still uses a wheelchair for the most part, but he tries to use a walker as much as possible to build strength in his legs. And we go to physical therapy to work on his balance and things like that, because his long-term goal is to be able to walk independently. Whatever that looks like, we're good with it, because we're just so grateful that he has made the progress that he's made. So that's the update on my life. That's the update on my husband. That's where I am emotionally at the moment. Now, how long have I been gardening? My whole life. My parents farmed, and we went with them to their farm in Jamaica while they gardened. So every man and woman, because I have 6 brothers and a sister, we were all putting corn in the holes or peas in the hole or whatever. So we've been gardening ever since. So vegetable gardening has always been in my blood. And then my mom always had flowers around the house, so I watched her tend those for years. And then when I got married at 22, I started gardening right away everywhere we lived. So I've been married 28 years. That makes me 50 for those who are doing the math. I've been gardening ever since. I've had a vegetable and a flower garden everywhere we lived. We now have an orchard here, which was primarily my husband's responsibility, but with his injuries, that has shifted, and some of that is on hold. Pretty much the orchard is managing itself at this moment. But our plan going forward is to apply to some grants that he qualifies for equipment that would allow him, with his current level of injury, to go back to doing some of what he loves to do. So more to come on that, because that will also be content on my channel. What was my motivation for gardening? The biggest motivation for me is gardening for me is a stress reliever. When I had my children, I had postpartum depression, and it was at my husband's urging that I got outside and started gardening, because he knew it would help me, because he has known me 32 years. So, he knows that when I go out and come back in, I am in a better mood, I feel better, I have more energy. So that's my motivation, is gardening heals my soul. There is something about touching the soil that connects so deeply within. I cannot explain it. So there is that. How did I get my start in gardening? I think I've answered that pretty much. My parents instilled it in me, and I garden out of a necessity. I love it, and it does wonders for me. What books do I recommend for beginners? I'm going to go through them quickly. There's 5 or 6. And I'm going to put the links in the description below. They will be from my Amazon store, because I bought all of these on Amazon. If you're not inclined to shop Amazon, then you could look for these. I am an Amazon affiliate, so it would be an affiliate link. It doesn't cost you any more, but I will make a few cents off the sale should you choose to purchase. So the first one is a vegetable garden book for beginners. It is by Jill McSheehy, and I will put, like I said, the link below. The next one is by our own YouTuber, Jess Soward from Roots and Refuge. And I think everybody knows Jess, but I also feel, honest opinion, I am not being paid to say this. This is in no way affiliated. This is one of the best books out there for a new gardener. It's just very simple, straightforward, direct. And it gives you a level of knowledge that will empower you to start gardening and to do so well. Another one is this Week by Week Vegetable Gardener's Handbook. Very, very useful. Chores of what to do each week, and I like that. Another one is this one, Plant Partners. Forgot to mention that this one is by Ron and Jennifer Kujawski. The next one is Plant Partners by Jessica Walzer, and it helps you with companion planting, because we know that's the best way to garden, adding flowers and vegetables that are compatible together. Stronger garden. From the flower side, I highly recommend Growing Flowers by Nikki Irving. It's a very good book, simple enough to follow, and gives you what to do from start to finish to start a flower garden. And of course, the guru of flowers, Florette. This book, A Year in Flowers, is an excellent one for someone wanting to start either a cut flower farm or just grow flowers in general. So these are my top ones that I highly recommend. Once again, I'll put the links below in the description box. So those are books that I highly recommend. And I recommend each one for a different reason. And that's why it's a good idea to invest in a few different books, so that you have different points of view, and that you can find one that you resonate with the most, or just take the best from each and apply that. Do I ever spray my garden with chemicals to deter bugs? I do the vegetable garden. Anything I use is organic, and I'm really even trying to get away from that. So this year, what I have literally done is anytime something gets to a point where I don't feel like I manage it naturally, I pull it out. I am doing my level best to bring all the beneficial creatures to my yard, and I have found that I have had hornworms killed by wasps because they're beneficial and they come and they do their job. I have lacewings. I have praying mantises. I have birds that eat the destroying caterpillars. So I try to create a nice ecosystem, a nice beneficial, an area that's welcoming to beneficial creatures so that my garden stays healthy. And that's kind of what I'm doing. So I plant the pollinator plants. I plant the plants that attract those things which are beneficial so that my garden gets protected that way. In my flower garden this year, I didn't spray anything. And you know what? Nothing died and everything bounced back. So I think a lot of it has to do with instilling a good ecosystem to get away from that. So what would I use in the garden if I were going to use something? Diatomaceous earth. I have used BT. I use baking soda to help with powdery mildew, and then just a dish soap, like a Castile soap spray, is what I primarily use. What is my favorite flower to grow and why? I swear people keep insisting that I name a favorite child, but you can't do that. I would say, however, my 3 top favorite flowers in order of love would be roses, hydrangeas, and peonies. And it probably will change during the season that each of them is in bloom. Because right now the hydrangeas are in full bloom. You can see some behind me here in my yard and it looks fabulous. My husband calls them the white puffy things, no matter how many times I've told him. But yes, he loves hydrangeas and so do I. So those are my top 3. Should I wait to buy a clematis and plant it since we have had hot weather? I would say yes. Clematises like their bottom, so their root system in a shade and the tops in the sun. And when you're planting a new plant and it's very hot, you are having to water every day, sometimes twice a day, to keep that plant happy until it fully establishes itself. I highly recommend planting clematises in the springtime. It gives them time to lay down good roots before they begin to bloom. And most times you will get a good bloom show that first year. So go ahead and wait until the springtime. Besides, why would you want to spend $40, $50 for a good quality clematis for it to die because you can't keep up with the watering? And the weather we've been having lately, there are days when it's in the high 90s and it feels like 115. So definitely that plant will struggle some. How do I budget for gardening? In years past, I didn't really follow a budget. Now, it doesn't mean my budget is unlimited. It means that I don't do my nails. I don't go to the beauty parlor. I am not one who's hooked on like pocketbooks and clothes and things like that. I like nice things, don't get me wrong, but I don't collect anything and I'm not one who has to have all of that. So all my discretionary income went into buying flowers. So if I walked into Home Depot, Lowe's, or my local nursery and I saw something that I liked, I would buy it because I had the income to do that. Now with my husband disabled, I don't have that discretionary income as I had before, so I've had to be more discreet in my purchases. I will say what I have always done is throughout the garden season, maintained a list of things that I would like to purchase and then where I would like to put them and the holes that they would plug. And then I go through at the end of the year and prioritize what I would like to see added to the garden. And then I set about doing that over the course of the year. And that has worked for me. Now, from the garden season, I'm looking at holes in the garden. What color am I missing? Where could a plant be? Where could a tree be? Do I need a tree here to add some height or some, do I need an evergreen to add some variation in the color? So I look at that and then I make a list. I prioritize my list and then I see what I have to have. And then based on that, come up with a budget and go forward. Now, I don't know what your income is. And so that could change because if you have a high income bracket, then your budget is going to be different to someone who is on a limited budget. And so if you're on a limited budget, I highly recommend going to the Dollar Tree, going to Walmart, Home Depot, and buying seeds and starting flowers from seeds that way, and then investing in select perennials and a few every year over time, your garden will grow. What is my favorite part of gardening? I would say seeing the results of the things that I've grown. I would say that looking at the flowers, looking at the food that comes out of the garden rewards me. Also, how I feel is a rewarding thing too. So that is it. What are my top 5 vegetables to grow and eat? I would say kale, callaloo, tomatoes, beans, and corn. And of course, peppers. That's number 6. So I grow a lot of all of those because they are crops that I can store and utilize over time. When did gardening become a passion? Gardening has been a passion, as I said before, my whole life, but probably I would say in the last 10 years since I moved to Georgia and I have a more temperate, growing climate, it has really exploded because my flowers now are nothing compared to what I've had before. Before I had 2 or 3 small flower beds. Now it's like half my yards of flowers. So, and my vegetable garden is now 60 by 40 instead of just a small area in the garden. My least favorite gardening chore. I would have to say my least favorite gardening chore is mulching. I just don't like carrying the mulch. I have no problem spreading it, but I have to, I think if I use bags of mulch, it would be cheap. It would be faster and easier on me. But I use bulk mulch, and so therefore it's harder because I have to shovel and carry each load. That's not as fun. But when the garden is done, it looks pretty, so can't complain there. We had to transition to my office because it's getting dark outside. You can see it right there. So let's finish our Q&A. How do you balance it all? That's the next question. And I would be lying if I told you that I did. There are some days where the sink is full of dishes and I've taken to my bed because I'm overwhelmed with the level of change in my life. But for the most part, I think having systems in place. I try to be an organized person, so having a time and a day to do most chores in the home. So like floors are done every day because with a walker and a wheelchair, it tracks in dirt. So I vacuum every day. I have a Dyson, so I vacuum the floor every day. As far as like dishes, I try to do them as soon as we eat, not always possible. And then like laundry is done one day a week. Bathrooms are done another day. And when I do laundry, I strip the beds and just remake them at the same time. It just makes my life easier. So doing different things on different days helps a lot because it gives me a sense of regularity. It gives me a sense of order, which I, as a person, crave. I don't like confusion and chaos. And for the last year, a lot of my life has been confusion and chaos because we've not been in charge for the most part, but we're beginning to get systems and that makes him and I both happy. I will say also too, I must get out in my garden. So I schedule my time in my garden around my life because it is essential. It keeps me sane and it keeps my stress level down. In the garden, I keep a list of things that needs to be done and I check them off. Even if I don't post it on social media, I do have a running list of what I want to get done that day. And I typically check those things off. And once I do that, then I feel accomplished. So having lists, having systems, having order helps me to quote unquote balance it all. And then there are days when I don't want to do it and I can't do it. And I accept that. And I used to not be able to, but this situation has taught us a lot. How would I say that my life is different in the last year? Oh boy. It's different in the sense that the dreams and hopes that we've had, some of them have had to take a back seat. Our plan was to travel more. He's not at the point yet where he is able to travel well, because he's got broken bones that are still mending and whatnot. But our goal is to resume our life, whatever that looks like, once he is well enough to do that. So someone asked for some meal planning tips for when you are eating from the garden seasonally. What I recommend is look at what is in season and then plan meals around those. And that's pretty much what I do. For example, when my potatoes came in, we had a lot of potato dishes. Potato is also a crop, though, that you can store long term. So I didn't have to use everything at once. But now what I did do is put potatoes in the rotation of meals. So I'd have potatoes at breakfast, and then I would do meals that would call for potatoes. Not every day and not every week, but it now made it into the rotation. When squash is in season, we eat squash quite often. I'll put it in vegetable soup, I'll put it in a stir fry, I'll use it just sauteed, and it becomes part of what's in season. So I just look at what is growing and then adjust the vegetable part of the meal to include that vegetable. For right now, eggplants are doing really well. We have a great eggplant dip that we make, and that is something that he and I can have in the evening with some pita bread. And it's filling enough where we don't feel like we have this heavy meal going to bed, but it's a light enough snack for us. So we tend to have our heaviest meal in the middle of the day. Personal choice, because it just works for him and his health. So we've just made that adjustment. And then in the evening, we tend to have something lighter. So, and then also lasagna, we put eggplant in it as a nice smoky note. I put eggplant in my pasta sauce because I chop up lots of veggies, and eggplant is one of those vegetables that I add. So figuring out ways to use whatever it is that's in season is kind of what I do. And then when it peters out, whatever comes in next is what I do. So used to, like when collards are in season, we make stuffed collard rolls instead of cabbage rolls. And that's just options. Learning how to use the baby collard green leaves in eggs. So just being a bit creative with some of the dishes that you would normally make and substituting what's in season for those veggies is a good option. Pet peeve. Someone asked what my biggest pet peeve was. I would say my largest pet peeve, or my biggest pet peeve, is rude people and people who don't know appropriateness. It is never okay to comment on someone's weight. It is never okay to comment on somebody's clothing. How do you know what their budget is? How do you know what they can afford? How do you know that they just don't love this piece, or this piece has sentimental value because it was given to them by their mother, or a friend who's passed away? Another thing is, how dare you tell someone what they should do in their home, their space, their garden? Unless they solicit your opinion, don't give it. Don't give it. Because it's rude to tell them, well, that doesn't look good there. Put this there instead. And it's never said in a loving way, ever. Usually there is a rudeness behind it. And you may not mean it that way, but it definitely translates that way. So keep it to yourself. If you don't like it, that's okay. We're not going to like everything everyone does, and that's all right. I have learned to see it and scroll on by. Even if I don't like it, I'll give it a thumbs up. Just because I don't personally like it doesn't mean that it doesn't work in that person's space. And if it makes them happy, go for it. That's what gardening is all about. What prompted me to start my IG account and YouTube? Well, a year ago, Instagram, or 2 years ago, Instagram did not have Reels. And so any kind of long form video where you wanted to explain a little bit or show something, you couldn't. So I gravitated towards YouTube to do that, but then my husband got injured, so that kind of put a curtailing on that. So I love to teach, I love to share my garden and so forth. So that's where YouTube came out of. Same thing with Instagram. So Instagram will still be there, but YouTube will just allow me to do more long form videos. How long have we lived on our current property? We've been here almost 11 years. December will be 11 years that we've moved here. We live on just a bit over 3 acres. Someone asked how much acreage we had. We live on a bit above 3 acres. Although some of it is still wooded, we garden quite a bit of it and or have an orchard on a good portion. Do I have family near? Yes, within 2 hours, I have a daughter, I have a brother, I have his wife and their two lovely children. I have aunts, uncles, cousins. I have family here in Georgia, so it is good to have family near. The issue is not near enough to get help every day, but that's okay. We're managing. What is the most important thing to have in your garden and why? I would say that the most important thing to have in your garden is healthy soil, because healthy soil rewards you with an abundance of good food and blooms. And so that's what you're looking for, is healthy soil. The second most important thing is to grow what you love. So in your garden, it should be comprised of the things that you love, whether it's to eat or the flowers that you like. Don't grow something just because someone else is growing it. Grow it because truly it is something that you like and actually want. If not, you're going to be disappointed time and time again, because you're growing something that doesn't make you happy. When you look out your window or look at your garden, it should make you smile. And if it does, then you're doing it right. If not, reassess and see what would bring that smile to your face. Next question. What is one thing you recommend everyone to grow? Grow what makes you happy. As far as vegetables are concerned, you may not like what I like, so I can't tell you what to grow. But the biggest rule of thumb is grow what makes you happy and that your family will eat. If you do that, you will always be happy. As far as flowers, grow perennials. They have a lot of return on your investment. They come back every year. And then grow pollinator plants, because then you bring the beneficial bugs and pollinators to your garden, and you don't have to worry about pollinating your squash plants or pollinating whatever. I don't hand pollinate anything in my garden because I have a lot of pollinators. I don't need to. I have bees galore, I have butterflies galore, hummingbirds, you name it, moths. I have them in my garden and they do their work. I have answered all the questions that were posed, and if you have any, we will probably do this again, maybe once every 6 months or so. I'll do a Q&A, kind of update you on my life, garden and home, and we'll go from there. Until next time, please like, comment, and subscribe. Talk to you later.